All right, I'm going to go ahead and call EPD committee meeting to order Monday, December 14th. And everyone is here except for Mr. Broad, who is out for personal reasons. So we're going to go ahead and start going through the agenda. Public comment. There's no public to comment. What do we hear on reading and approval of minutes for November 2nd?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted for November 2nd on the first one.
And then November 17th.
A special call also, and make a motion to approve those as well, November 2nd.
All right, so we have we have a motion to approve the minutes from November 2nd and November 17th.
And a second.
And a second. Is there any discussion? The only discussion that I would have, Mr. Administrator, it does say on the agenda, EPD committee meeting November 2nd, and it should be 17th, but the minutes that are included in the agenda packet say 17th, so we all know what that means, just for the record. All right, hearing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The two sets of minutes are approved. Reports, communications from city officers. Again, Mr. Broad is not here tonight, so he can do double duty in January. We have no unfinished business. Would anybody like to offer a motion to enter executive session for consideration of an economic matter related to Project Unity allowed by statute 30-4-70A5?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and we are in executive session at 6:05. We're out of executive session at 7 o'clock. Who wants to report out?
I'll report out. No decisions were made, no action was taken.
Thank you, Ms. Kuzner. Now, do we have any action taken or any action on items discussed in executive session?
Yes, I make a motion pending legal review of the LOI to send regarding the Project Unity, that it be forwarded to full council for review and approval.
Thank you, Ms. Kuzner. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Give a second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Forwarding that to full council. Brings us to our second public comment period. Do we have any public comment? There is no public. Do we have anybody online, Mr. Madden?
We do.
Wants to?
Nobody's raised their hand. Any of the attendees?
All right. Committee concerns. Hearing none. What do I hear on adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. We are adjourned, and stay tuned for the fine folks at Public Works.
Calls meeting to order. It is December 14th, and it is 7:03. So I guess we start with public comment. Is there any public comment? Line.
Nobody has raised their hand to speak.
Okay, so no public comment. Move on to reading and approval of minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
I have a move.
Second.
Second. With that, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Aye. Those opposed? On here. Move on. Okay. Report communication from city officers. So Matt, Mr. Freeman, if you would.
Certainly. So I'd let it be known that we took receipt of the new knuckle boom last week. It's currently at Jenkins, getting decals and numbering. Got insurance on it yesterday, or no, today, and I'll get the municipal plate tomorrow. So it'll be on the road. I also got word that the new leaf act should be coming in beginning part of next month. So as far as our budget goes, at this time of year, ideally we want 50% of our budget amount to be remaining in each one of our accounts. We average anywhere from 61 to actually 57 to 69%. So we're and each one of my departments doing very well.
With the new leave back on hand, you'll be able to pick up leaves twice a week now.
We have been, just so you know, we are actually ahead of schedule on leave pickup. We've been working after hours and over the weekend to just alleviate any of the concerns. It's always, they always peak around this time of the year because all the leaves come down at once. We've been struggling with, one of our machines is up at the manufacturers in Charlotte, trying to identify what's wrong with it. We've been keeping up and getting ahead, working these extra hours, running a 17-year-old truck, and then one of the other trucks. So
Currently, we have 2 trucks running.
2 of the
1.5.
1.5.
Yeah.
Enough trucks.
Well,
We'll have how many next year?
Well, we'll have the 4th one in January. And we've had all kinds of maintenance issues. The 5-year-old one, we just got back from international today. They had a fuel pump went down, but they understand the importance of our machine, so they put us at the top of the queue. So we only lasted for like 3 days.
You took delivery on both of your, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. You took delivery on both your hot mix trailer and the 2 asphalt things and trainment.
That's
training on both of those?
That's correct. And that was in the administrator's report.
It was.
Yeah, and actually the day we received the asphalt hot box, we actually used it that night to repair that manhole in front of the oil change place on Butler. But yeah, we like both of those, and we have some ditch work coming up this week, but starting next week, we're going to be hitting the year 5 roads that are listed in here with crack fill.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anything else to report?
Just another great day in Mauldin.
Make sure that gets in the minutes.
Okay. If that's it, we move on to unfinished business, which there are none, correct? Okay, and new business. And the participation agreement. GLDPC form.
Chairman, members of the committee, what's before you is a participation agreement for our municipal match repaving program that's managed by the GLDTC. Council appropriated $2.7 million this year. That was matched at $191,000. So that combined will give you a little bit over $2.8 million. That will carry, in talking with Co-Transco, that will take care of your first year of your roads and the majority of the second year of your roads, all the way up to summer. Once the project is actually bid out, if there are any remaining funds, a request will come to the city for direction on how they want to appropriate that. If you want to add it on to finish out year 2 of the road paving list.
And you're saying, just so we're clear, you're saying roads year 1, year 2, that's by what we do report,
That's
not
correct.
when it's actually going to be done.
That's correct.
Look for some Co-Transco coupons on the Sunday paper, see if we can snatch some mileage out of them.
There's a possibility. Once it's bid out, depending on the contracting, the cost of asphalt. We had that situation last year. We were able to make a change and add 2 additional streets. But this will give council some options moving forward. If you move forward with this agreement for next year, as you approach your fiscal year 22 budget development process, how much money you would want to put towards transportation and road paving in the future. Keep in mind that the match funds provided by the GLDTC can be banked. So, for example, next year they matched and provided $192,000 again. You can hold that until the following year. This year we still will receive, I think, $130,000 from Greenville County for road paving. That to spend. So keep that in mind as well.
Now, and with that in mind, that gives some thought to, from what this analysis said, we needed to spend $800,000 a year just to keep pace with the roads. It may make some sense to consider that banking it for this year, soften the blow in next year's budget so that you can still maybe make even if you're putting up 800,000, that gives you 1.2 total or whatever that number is.
Well, General maintained was that 800,000 based on current roads, but this would be the first 2 years, the rework, that should reduce that number as a whole anyways.
Yeah, for years 3 through 5. And this agreement is a little different than the past, there's more pay as you go. So we'll keep the 2.7 in the bank, and as it's expended, we'll pay it. Where in the past, they would just send us an invoice for the total amount.
So we have a motion, correct? Was needed now?
Mr. Chair, I made the motion to forward to council the agreement with Greenville Legislative Delegation Transportation Committee for the participation agreement enclosed.
I have a motion to move the participation agreement as discussed to council. Second.
Second.
Second. Those in favor say aye.
Discussion.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Is there discussion? Any more discussion?
What are y'all thoughts on holding back and going with 2.5? Going with our funding, holding that banking for next year, softening the blow for next year?
Well, I don't know if that's the way it's rolling in. It keeps moving out. If we don't use it in that time frame, we just move it into next year. So the banking's the same. That makes sense. Correct? If we put it all in here, we don't use it, it goes into next year's anyways.
Yeah, so on this, what if you want to just only provide 2.5, 2.7 million, I would then ask Co-Transco that we would want to move that 192,000 to next year. We don't want to spend any of that for this year's cycle. We want to bank that for next year. And so when next year rolls around, then council will have the decision, because they're going to match again, the money is there, another 190,000+.
So we have to basically put up $200,000, they match it. So next year, would we have to put up 400 or 300 and change?
No, the match is good for this. This is all
So
they
the match is there, they just hold on to the check.
Mm-hmm. The funds, they would just encumber the funds.
They hold the funds, and then when for next year, it'd just be there already.
Mm-hmm.
Hypothetically speaking, if we were 191 this year, 191 next year, next year we would have the 3 mills that we put aside, which should be I think we equated to like 390.
Almost,
remember?
it's almost
3 million.
I'll give you over 200,000. I don't know exactly how far over 200,000. It just depends what.
I have no problem with it. I'm just food for thought as we're coming into this budget year.
Yes. If you were to, okay.
No, I was just gonna say, I personally don't, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't see where it would be beneficial to make that move.
Because at the end of the day, we still have that list of roads, correct? And so it's where we get to the end of the roads. If we hold on to it to next year, that just means we don't get to those roads this year, we get to them next year.
Yeah, I mean, the funds have been appropriated, so.
Right.
I'll go with it.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. All right, now, those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No one. With that, we move to, goes on to council, correct? Correct. All right, street sweeping. With RP, we have several quotes here. We'll discuss this.
Yeah, so, just so everyone remembers, the request came through Public Works to bring in quotes several months ago for a replacement street sweeper. And the quotes were like $230,000. The next thing we explored was, what if we were to contract that service out? Because that was something that came up during the discussion. So we put together an RFP, we sent it out, solicited bids. We had some local companies and some national companies put in. And we kind of set the conditions being, you have to hit all the streets 4 times a year. So it'd be quarterly street sweeping. The lowest bid came in from Sweeping Corporation of America, which was all agreed upon during the review process, and it came out to be approximately $25,000 a year to have quarterly sweeping of all of our streets. All right.
If we were to do that ourselves, how often would we be doing?
So when we did run the truck, when it was working, we never could do the entire city all at once.
Before prep.
Yeah, before prep. The machine never lasted. Now we did do, Brandon and I did put our heads together and we kind of did a fiscal analysis. You know, if we were to, you know, go ahead, Amy, my changes, thank you. And just kind of calculate, hey, if we were to buy a truck, pay insurance, you know, pay the operating costs, pay fuel costs, and then the labor costs to do quarterly, you know, what it would cost for us to do it, you know, over like an 8-year span. And that's what's presented in front of you. Realistically, you know, we anticipate that these trucks last 8 to 10 years. It costs more to do it in-house. It really does.
I think from my perspective, try it a year, try it 2 years. If it doesn't work, maybe revisit buying a truck and go from there.
And actually, I was looking at the costs, and I was doing, I don't know where I got 278 for the sweeper, that's what I had in my head. You know, when you divide by 5, usually what would it cost by 5? It's not even really touching it.
No.
So I guess the question would be, you know, ideally we were saying, hey, once a quarter, would it make more sense to do more than that?
No, that's the thing, is that if we were to do it more than once a quarter, I mean, that's when the numbers start to skew and start to come to like an inflection point where they meet. You know, the thing to bear in mind with the street sweeper is that a street sweeper's intention is to get up trash and grit in a roadway. It's best used on roads that have curbs. If a road doesn't have curbs, that stuff washes off the road. So the street sweeper running those roads literally serves no purpose.
I was actually going to ask you about that because it said on the contract, it talked about it goes up to half the height of the curb. All roads don't have curbs.
A lot of curbs. And so running the street sweeper on all the city streets, I mean, I know that when we talked about before, there was some people thought that the street sweeper actually cleaned the roadway, like washed and scrubbed. No, that was not at all what it provides. It gets up grit and stones. You know, it does clean up leaves. It picks up trash. But if roadways don't have curbs, that stuff's already washed away at the first rain. You know, if we do run it more frequently, then you know the costs become more reasonable. But doing the whole city quarterly, we can't beat the prices provided by an individual contractor. Now, this goes back to what I said many meetings ago. I don't necessarily believe that it is essential for the city to have a street sweeping service. You know, at a point where we have a downtown area, something like, you know, Main Street, Greenville, or City Center, or whatever it may be, where we want that cleaned every day, this makes a whole lot more sense, owning a machine. But if it's just to run the roadways and pick it up here and there, it doesn't, in my opinion, it's just, like I said, my opinion, it doesn't make a lot of fiscal sense to purchase a machine. But, you know, if we have a downtown area and the expectations to have it clean every day, I'm going to sit here and tell you that we need a machine.
Right. Well, even that, we may not know. Maybe it's still cheaper to have somebody else service it than to do a machine.
No, we had one quote, the daily cleaning of streets. It escalates pretty quickly.
I guess rephrase that. If we had to do a street sweeping of a downtown area, not the whole city, it might still be cheaper.
And it's something we might need to evaluate later on. So, you know, this is basically, you know, I know Brandon wrote this to award the bid. That's up to you, but I don't know if we necessarily need it. Once again, that's my opinion.
On the street sweeping, I mean, just from my understanding, we have to go through council for approval of a contract like this, or is it just because it's 25?
Yeah,
cost?
it's on budget right
Right.
now,
Yeah.
so council will have to budget the funds to.
Because the 200 and change for the street sweep,
Yes.
street sweeper was not in the budget, correct?
That was not-
It was in the upcoming
Upcoming for
budget.
next year.
It was in the, capital projects for a year out,
Fund hurts now from the same.
which is what brought this conversation up as we were looking. And that was the discussion, why are we gonna spend this much money when our city isn't conducive for practical purposes for a street sweeper? And
I get you.
because it's more of like a downtown Graceville at best, right?
So then the question is, what Mr. Flynn is trying to delicately say is, do we want to change the service that we're providing? We've done it in the past, partially, at times. Is that something we want to step back and say, okay, then we're still street sweeping? Or do we look and say, let's do this for 1 year and then reevaluate next year?
Well, my personal opinion is I'd like to do a 3-year reevaluation, especially these costs. This price are what we're looking at and what we're contemplating.
But to be devil's advocate, staff does know what we're looking at.
Yep.
And if there's a need there for us to provide this service there's a difference between when I receive phone calls and folks request that the streets are swept, it's not cleaning the street. It's not getting the red clay up where your neighbor did construction or some yard work. So, I don't know.
Well, I guess one of the things we could look at too is we'd like to try it. We'd like to do it for the month of January, February, first quarter. What would you charge for that one to see what we get for our effort, right?
I suspect it would be an all or nothing.
And I think that
we would
only
have
makes
to
sense as
re-RFP
well.
also, actually.
I mean, if you awarded the bid to this group, then we could try and negotiate with something different.
They did give quarterly pricing.
I wouldn't be a fan of doing a certain section and then we're not gonna do this. I think we either need to make the decision we're gonna do it or we're not gonna do it, but that's.
Do we want to make a motion? Do we want to do? Think about it.
I would personally say hold it in committee for now,
Mm-hmm.
since we don't have a clear direction as to where we have to go. When I'm questioning something, I tend to err on what staff's recommendation is. So, I respect what you say, and $25,000 in the whole scheme of things in a $32 million budget isn't a lot, but at the same time, if it's not a necessary service, then why contract that out?
I guess maybe what we can do too is this company, I'm assuming, does other streets or local Greenville maybe, or I'm just asking the question. Someone would just say, hey, here's before, here's after. Is it really a service football?
They provide a reference. I mean, we said, check. This is the more national wide. This is what they do. Yeah. It's a national company, so they certainly provide a reference. Check.
I'm just curious if what they do is better than what we're doing before. That's the other thing.
Well, the problem with
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that
in theory.
Yes. But Mr. Chair, I wouldn't object if the majority of committee feels like they want to send it to council, and us vote on it with full council. I'm not opposed to that. I'm just kind of on the fence with it. Prior to tonight, I would have said, yes, let's go ahead and forward it to council, but after discussion, I'm kind of on the fence.
Can we leave it in committee and look at it again in January? Or is there some time? Okay, so we can do that. You all,
Discuss a little bit more.
Discuss a little more and Because I'll be honest, I haven't dug into what we actually get. I know I looked at the machine, I looked one up. I didn't actually see what does it actually do for us.
It's a vacuum that runs over the roadway.
I know this.
simplest
I know
terms.
this. I know what I'm saying is for our roads. I just hadn't thought about
I mean, how much of problem is trash in the roadway in Mauldin?
it. It isn't except for like when you get after bad storms sometimes that pick up with the leaves that are all over the roads. You have that. You also have a storm basically really with one time. We don't have a litter problem. I would say. We're always picking it up. Yeah. So outside of the storm, that's what we're looking at, right?
And there were conditions about like they weren't going to be running after storms.
I was reading to it, but if it was something out of the ordinary. Yeah. So I forget how it was worded, but that's additional. They can do it, but it's an additional. Which would make sense.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know. I mean, if they're going to vacuum up all the leaves.
Well, if they want to augment our leaf pickup, I mean, that would be great.
So they're just splitting. So stay in place.
I guess what I was reading was you have to curb. That's why I had the question. Roads that don't have curbs, do those not get, there's leaves in there with that getting back. That was kind of that's why that came up. Plus, if everyone's in agreement with this whole thing, let's go next month and we can think about this. So, is there any, from a procedural standpoint, do we have to just go on to the next slide? All right, item C, motion. Does anyone have a motion to enter into executive session? Consider contractual matters related to Metro Connect as allowed by state statute, section 30-4-70A, 2 pages 27. So, do I have a second? That's the vote. All right. It is now 8:39. Turning back to the regular session. Report out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to report out in the executive session for the practical matter related to Metro Connect. There was no vote taken and no action. Executive session.
Thank you. All right. Now this here, move on to the next part. Public comment. Anything on?
There's nothing on.
Move on. Any concerns? Any concerns?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, you did a fantastic job in looking at our maintenance schedule and make sure we have a platform that's consistent throughout the city on how we maintain right away and stuff like that. One of my big baseball components. I love our parks. We did such a great job on that. What I'd like you to look at now is how to, with the baseball field, how do we have no real schedule to maintain other than cutting grass, pulling weeds, and stuff like that. So if you could develop or contact people you would know that may have maintenance plans for your fields, infields, dirt, how often you plays are grading, how often you do all those things. If you can come up with a plan for that, so it'd be something really different, so we can better make your field. Have them. They used to be these pristine fields, and they're fine, but I wouldn't call them pristine. With your direction, I think they could be. So, using your vast knowledge, experience, and all that, and that was all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Anything?
No, thank you.
Or the one thing that you brought up, and I think it's kind of already addressed it, we looked at the lead collection. Down 1.5. I make sure we're 4 running.
Well, we should have 3.
Okay.
We should have 3.
3 maybe
be next.
3.
Yeah. 3 is.
One of the things before going to the numbers is I was thinking, well, maybe we should look since the contracting out. We looked at the pricing for the road sweeping. It was, pretty low. What does that look like in the future if we wanted to maybe contract some of the leaf collection out? Don't know if that's, it's just worth looking at because it came up much smaller fee than I thought it was going to be when we were looking at that sweeping. So what does it look like for me? It's not something that we're gonna rush and jump on now. Maybe start thinking.
The only thing I'll throw in that is seasonal,
It is seasonal.
and they all fall at the same time.
That's right.
So
That's why I'm not sure we can get anything.
every pretty Saturday, everybody's gonna blow loose.
Yeah, and then there's the trucking cost, and then there's the disposal cost of the landfill, because we actually incur that, and it's, oh, well, we can run some numbers.
Not a rush on.
Oh, okay.
The leaves are where they are now. Maybe something to think about. When we get into
If you ever have time, you should always just go behind Jenkins and see the mountain of leaves, just to kind of get a feel for the volume.
Oh, I know. I looked at the schedule and I said, oh, they're coming Monday this week. Yes. So ahead of the game, got there Saturday. So
And that's what you did with your leaves out.
I got most. They got most of them.
Well, but even though we're ahead, what we do is that when we get to the end of the week, we return back. We kind of got the forester neighborhoods.
I appreciate it.
No problem. We got in there, we got them all done, and then everyone at the front part of Forester where we'd already put more leaves
I was
out.
gonna say.
And then started calling and saying, you didn't pick up my leaves, so we did the neighborhood again.
Mr. Chair, I did have one quick thing I forgot for a moment. For Mr. Blumen to make sure his staff is thanked for not only putting out the Christmas wreath ornament, decorations, but also putting them out, then going back and looking at the ones that the lights were out, or those need to be straightened, because that first go around, okay, not all out, I'm just gonna chill and see what happens. And then y'all were on it before I could even say anything. Second of all, holy schmoly, I was on the team that picked those out to order them first time and the second time. I didn't realize they're 4 feet tall. I saw one in the lobby or downstairs in the stairwell.
Like 70 pounds.
I knew they were 50 plus pounds. But then when I literally saw them and they were about as tall as me, then if anyone's reading the minutes, that's point in case. These men are having to pick up those 70-pound wreaths and put them up there. So no, they might not look perfect that first go around. The second go around, they did a great job. Well, they did a great job both times, but kudos and thanks for that, because I know it's a long day, hard job. That's not many people are. They like the way they look, but they don't realize what goes into putting those races up. Yeah.
Because like the big strong guys who can lift things are different from the other little guys who can make things look great. So there's a process.
I'm going to do each category, but thank you. That's all I had.
With that being said, those lighting issues, that all been resolved. They were some lights that I heard they do power, that they had to get or whoever did the power company that like poles, that there was some lighting issues.
Yeah, so like historically, like it was last year before my time, the interim public works director had worked with Carolina Electric Power to come up with a cost estimate to fix all the power on the pole. Mm-hmm. And it was brought before council, and I believe it was in the realm of $100,000. And council just decided not to do it.
Because at some point, weren't they going to be changed out to LED lights? It just didn't make sense financially to put that money in when they were going to be upgraded in the future.
Yeah,
the thought process.
When it happens, we don't know. But I mean, if you notice when you go up and down Butler or Lawrence, it's not like
every single pole.
There's gaps because there's no power or the power is destroyed, and it's. We did our best to get as many up as we could. That every pole that had power has a redone. While we'd like to have more, it's going to cost. It's going to be an investment from the town to pay for those poles to be fixed. Okay. But we did have Duke come out because there on East Butler, the photo cell was actually on a breaker. Duke Power had to actually open up a box and flip the breaker to turn it on.
I heard something about Duke Power couldn't get something on because of Duke Power, and that must be what you're
because we put everything down East Butler from City Hall that way, nothing turned on.
All right, that makes sense
then. But they all work.
They all work now.
Yeah, that's good.
Very good. All right. Other concerns? Okay. We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's 8:46, Andy. Okay, it is 8:49, and I will call the third committee meeting of December 14th to order. Public safety. Present are all members of the committee, myself, Mr. Black, and Mr. Frayling. We have department heads, city administrator, Mr. Madden, as well as Chief Turner, Chief Mahone, and Judge Martin is joining us via Zoom or whatever that is, remotely.
Yeah.
Hello, Judge Martin. Hope you're doing
Hello.
well.
Good. I hope you all are well too.
Yes, thank you. All right. The next item on the agenda is the first public comment. Public comment. All right. Any online, Mr. Madden? Or anybody with us?
Nope, there's no one online.
All right, then we'll move on to number 3, reading and approval of the minutes from our last committee meeting on November the 2nd.
Those minutes of the committee meeting be accepted.
I have a motion to approve as submitted. Do I have a second?
Madam Chairman, since I was not present, but then can I legally vote to approve or disapprove? I mean, I was involved, but I couldn't do any voting act.
You were there to listen to everything.
Yeah, I was in on Zoom, but not presently.
And we'll say that you can approve the minutes since you were present.
I just want to make sure I wasn't doing anything incorrect. Okay, so I'll second then.
All right, thank you for asking. Any correction or further discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of passing the minutes from November 2nd, say aye. Aye. None opposed, motion carries. Next on the agenda, we have reports from Mr. Madden and our other leaders. I'll start with Mr. Madden.
Yes, ma'am. I do want to get that report.
All right. And as I always do, I'll jump to Judge Martin.
Thank you. Good evening. Yes, I just wanted to report out on the Judicial Department's financial. Right now, we are currently trending at 9% under the ideal budget. So that's all that I have to report.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Judge Martin?
No.
She's on. All right. Thank you so much.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you. Y'all too. Thank you.
Hey, Chief Turner.
Yes, ma'am. Currently, we stand about 7% under a lot of the municipal budget, and we, as you know, we had purchased some vehicles, police vehicles.
Yes.
We got last week before last, they were scheduled to have been produced on the 12th of this month. They're still looking at the vehicles arriving approximately sometime next month.
Okay.
And RFP is currently out right now, upfit of those vehicles. And of course, that's already budgeted with the vehicles and our capital outlay, but we'll be informing you of that moving forward. And so just because that's scheduled to close out on the 21st.
All right. Thank you for that update. Any other questions for Chief Turner? All right. Seeing none at this time. Chief Mahone.
We're currently 3% under budget. And we won't go ahead and bring up about the new trucks and all that.
Sure.
Okay. Just we had like somebody had done our specs. I'm very proud of the guys and girls. They got together and they built their 2 pumpers and a platform. And they are in the process of beginning process of getting started to be built.
Can you 2 pumpers and what?
Aerial platform.
These people the same manufacturer, some of them.
Yes.
Out of Florida.
Out of Wisconsin. It's Peters.
I think last year breaking.
Well, they got like ones we got lately are Peters. They got one in Sarasota. They got a plant in Sarasota, and the main plant is in Appleton, Wisconsin.
For these, the one similar to what I saw some photographs of some
Yes, ma'am.
examples.
That's
Okay.
it. Yes, ma'am.
They're nice and shiny and big.
And expensive.
Nice try.
Yeah.
Yes, sir,
They
they
are.
are. Yes, yeah. All right, any questions for our chief? All right, hearing none, then we have no unfinished business. So that leaves us to new business. Under number 6 on the agenda, first item would be security cameras. You have on page 5 of your packet. And as you can see, this is an item that's already been budgeted. Mr. Matthew, you want to take the lead on
I'm
this?
sure. Madam Chair, members of the committee, so what's before you is proposing to award a bid for installation of security cameras in City Hall on the interior and exterior. Council budgeted approximately $80,000 for new cameras and some construction on the first floor to improve security here at City Hall. So we split that up. The RFP was put out just for the cameras. We had an evaluation team that reviewed 9 proposals. They recommended Encore Technology as the provider, to award the bids. It's well below the $80,000 that was budgeted. I think the proposal came in at least half of that for that piece of it. So staff would recommend that the committee award or recommends for council awarding the bid.
All right. As Mr. Madden said, the funds have already been budgeted. It comes in under budget, so we just need to award the bid to Encore, which was one of 9 firms that wants to raise to the top. Any questions on the process?
Brandon, are these all hardwired or some of them hardwired and wireless cameras? We're gonna have some out in the parking lot, they'll all be attached in the building or on the building itself.
I need to go back and look at the Encore Tech proposal. I don't think they're all hardwired.
Some wireless.
But Encore Tech apparently had, from talking to the evaluation committee, they use the technology that uses facial recognition. The folks on the evaluation team, they thought it was really impressive and serve the needs that City Hall has. Do you remember, Chief? I know you wasn't on the evaluation team, but I know that. Do you remember Encore Tech? Was it all hardwired? Yeah.
The only reason I ask is if you don't have any on the outside perimeter poles, all wireless, it'll be a lot less expensive to install than the other ones would.
Well, we can certainly find out before the council meeting next week.
I mean, it's just a question. Thank
It
you.
doesn't change anything.
No, I just want to, just a matter of information.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Yes, sir. Spreading anything. All right, what's the pleasure of council on this item?
I'd like to make a motion to go into contractual agreement with Encore Technology.
I'll second that.
Okay, have a motion and a second to award the bid to Encore Tech for the interior and exterior security camera upgrades to City Hall. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. None opposed, motion carries. The next item is our countywide mutual aid, which falls under the fire department. So, from what I understand, Chief, this is different from a typical mutual aid that we discussed. Is it?
It's the same thing. It's just county-wide, it's Pringle County.
Okay.
If they request, they need a certain piece of equipment, as long as we have our adequate staff and so forth, we'll send that equipment to them and vice versa. If we need their equipment or their personnel, they come to us.
So that's the key, a countywide mutual aid.
Yes. Pringle County, yes.
Yeah.
Other groups, I think, just bordering cities.
That's right.
That's specific areas. Yes, auto aids.
Automatic.
That's, yeah. All right, these are pretty standard aid agreements. So if you have any questions they want to ask at this time, or what I hear is the pleasure of council.
I move that we forward this to full council for approval.
Thank you. Mr. Spike, do I have a second? I have a second to forward to full council the approval for the Greenville County mutual aid agreement. To forward to council next week on the 21st. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Okay, that leads us to the third 6B on the agenda, which is a motion to enter into executive session. Someone like to make that motion?
I move we go into executive session, receive of legal advice allowed by state statute section 30-4-78(2).
Thank you, Mr. White. Have a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion? Hearing none, we are in executive session. It's 9 o'clock. Okay, 9:52. We're reporting back in from executive session. Would someone like to report out, please?
Report that there was no votes taken, no actions. No votes taken, no actions.
Gotcha. No discussion, no action. And then, so that carries us to the 6D on the agenda, possible actions. Returning from executive session is none, which takes us to public comment number 2. And public comment in the room, not online. Committee concerns. All right, you're making concerns. What I have on adjournment.
We adjourn.
Second.
All right. We're done. All right. I'll call this building codes committee. The order it is December 14th at approximately 9:57. Here, Dale Black, have that name myself. David Dearlog and city administrator Brandon Madden. Any public comment? Hearing none. What do I hear on reading approval of the minutes from the second?
Move for approval.
Do I hear a second?
Madam Chairman, from a previous meeting, legal consent, if you was not physically present, I was in by Zoom. I can still vote to accept the minutes because I was in attendance to the meeting at that time by way of the vote.
Any discussion? All in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Next on our agenda is reports from the communication. Report to communication. City office.
The only thing I have for you tonight is I provided you a budget update, and we're doing good. The ideal remaining percent is 58% at the end of November, and we've got 64% remaining. So I got a little extra. I got to start spending there.
It's Christmas.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay. So now we move on to unfinished business, and the first item is a policy to establish uniform and consistent procedures for appointing membership on the Mauldin Planning Commission and the Mauldin Building and Zoning Board of Appeals and other considerations.
This is a continuation from the last committee meeting. There was one follow-up I had on that, and was to ask the attorney about having residency requirements. He said that was okay. I guess that works fine. I'm just looking for input and feedback as to if there's any additions, revisions, modifications you want to see to procedures by which we want to consider appointing members to the boards and commissions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. David, the only thing that I would look at is that maybe we don't need to have designated interview times. They could actually be done during committee. I know, in watching the way some of the neighboring jurisdictions handle their interview processes for board commission applicants, that it's not unusual for the committee to do that really in an open session. And I don't know that, I mean, if they're going to be potentially a part of public body, go ahead and start getting them used to it. That would really be the only thing in the proposal that I might take a look at. Thank you.
Ms. Bryant?
No, Madam Chairman.
All right. So what do we need to do with that?
You can either have me bring it back the next committee meeting, or we can make that change and bring it to council. It's whatever you vote for.
Madam Chair, at the appropriate time, I would move to amend the section regarding applicant interviews and have that section read so that the interviews are conducted during a meeting of this committee. That would be my amendment to the proposal.
Okay, and they can go ahead and amend that, and then we can forward this to full council.
Well, we need to vote on the amendment first.
Okay. All right, so then that'll be in January, right?
You could do that here tonight.
Yeah, we could vote. We can amend it in committee.
Okay.
So that would be my motion would be to amend it.
Okay, go ahead and second.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair, I would move that we forward the amended process for board and committee, board and commission appointments to full council for consideration and approval.
All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, the ayes have it. Okay, so the next thing that we have is appointment to the vacant seat on the planning commission.
We had talked about previously considering Brian Schofield for that, and he resubmitted an application for the planning commission. So you should have that in the packet, and I just wanted to bring that back up in case that's something you wanted to take any action on.
Okay. I would personally like to, and I know that you probably want to interview him. I mean, he's the only one, so he's the only applicant for the planning commission. So I don't know how y'all feel about just moving on to full council to consider his application or go through the process of the interview.
Well, the interview is not in effect until council accepts it.
Would it be appropriate to ask him to come to the council meeting to introduce himself? And let's potentially have some back and forth with him at the council meeting.
That'd be the easiest thing to do. That'd be the easiest thing to do since we haven't adopted, the council hasn't adopted the new format for selection members of both bodies.
So then we're sort of interviewing him in the council meeting.
He's the only one that only candidate. We just ask him why, because I don't know if too many people have ever been on these, attended many council meetings. They fill out an application and you may or may not see them until they're voted up.
And I think that that's part of the problem that we're addressing.
I would be glad to reach out to him if you want to do that and see if he's available.
If he's willing to come, available, willing to come, and just, you know.
If he would be more comfortable doing that virtually, would the council be, for the committee be open to that? I'm just thinking ahead.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I mean, it is Christmas week.
So I can check on his availability first, and then if he expresses any reservations about coming in person, if you're okay with that.
Well, if you want, we can forward his application, and if we need to hold it on the floor, we can do that, or if he's willing to come and participate in the interview process, we can do that. So if you'd like, I can make a motion for this council.
Okay. All right, do I hear a second?
Forward the application. I second that on that phone.
Okay. All right, any discussion?
David, you say we can still operate with minus this one person?
The probably the main interest in going ahead and filling it right now is just they're getting going now with working on the comprehensive plan. So if we could have whoever fills that open seat to be part of it from the beginning.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of sending this to full council for review of the application, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Okay, so next we move on to new business. And first up is the annexation at Standing Springs Road and Union Church Road. We have an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by Henry Mauldin Jr. Revocable Trust and located at 36 Union Church Road by 100% petition method, and to establish a zoning classification of R10 residential for said property. Also is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of a portion of property owned by Union Baptist at Greenville and located at 50 Union Church Road by 100% petition method, and to establish a zoning classification of R10 residential for said property. Also included in that is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by Fort Shoals Holdings LLC and located at 2152 Standing Springs Road by 100% petition method, and to establish a zoning classification of R10 residential for said property.
I'll go ahead and just give some background on these petitions, on these ordinances. These three properties in total represent about 62 acres. The tract is directly contiguous to the Sunny Hill Cottages subdivision, which was annexed into the city back in 2019. It's also adjacent to the Meadow Springs subdivision, which was annexed into the city in 2019. In fact, it is sandwiched right in between the two. There's an applicant who has recently acquired the Sunny Hill Cottages subdivision and is purchasing these tracts of land and plans to add these tracts into the Sunny Hill Cottages development project. Right now, the Sunny Hill Cottages development project is planned for 336 single-family detached homes and 43 single-family attached homes, along with a commercial out parcel along Fort Shoals Road. And this annexation is going to enable that applicant to expand the Sunny Hill Cottages development project by adding 222 single-family detached homes. They're expected to have an average price point somewhere in the mid to high 200,000. Utilities are out there and available. The sewer for this project will be the city of Mauldin. They recently, I should say, when they started out doing Sunny Hill Cottages, they acquired a sewer easement that goes all the way to a re-wall line specifically for the purpose of that being city sewer line. It's currently in the South Green Fire District, but it'll be covered by the automatic aid agreement that the city has with the fire district. And as you said, these properties will be zoned R10, which is what the Sunny Hill Cottages development currently is. Staff supports the annexation of these three tracts that total 62 acres.
So I just have a question about if you know, Mr. Bernard, if Fort Shoals Road and Standing Springs Road are going to be widened. There's when I pulled this up on the map on Google, I can see there's a lot of subdivisions coming in around there, and these are just what, like 2 lane, 3 3-lane roads, because there's that center for turning.
So, yeah, to answer your question, Standing Springs does have some improvements pegged for it. The main improvement they're looking at on Standing Springs Road is the intersection with Ashmore Bridge Road. That intersection is designed pretty poorly. It comes in at a pretty tight angle. And so one of the developers out there is got an order to align that road so it comes in at a better intersection. That will definitely help some of the situation on Standing Springs Road. But from a traffic standpoint, Fork Shoals Road is the more heavily trafficked road. There are some plans. It's in the long range plan for GPATs. It's kind of waiting to rise to the top now so that it can get into their STIP or their funded plan. But it's on their radar, but it's not funded yet. They have it, but this type of development will continue to help it rank higher as GPATs go through the ranks of projects from time to time.
Do we know how long it's going to take to build out these properties?
We have a representative here. You know what the time frame is on the full development for that?
He has not given us a time frame. I am not exactly sure if their plan is to continue with the Sunny Hills, the current Sunny Hills portion, before they begin the new section, or if they want to do some of it concurrently. That's something I would have to find out from the developer, but the entire development, considering the number of lots, it would be probably at least a 5-year build out, if not more. So.
Okay. Well, these are, there are a lot of, it's heavily treed, right?
Yes.
Are they going to try and keep any clusters of trees or anything like that out there?
There will be some. What I have now is just really a rough sketch. I'm going to change a little. Let's see. There is a potential creek that runs through the site, so anything around that creek would be saved, of course. They have 2 big pockets kind of in the middle, and other than that, for the most part, the majority of the area towards the Standing Springs roadside would be green space.
Okay, so any questions? Questions?
This is going to be required for sidewalks, and then in our ordinance,
Yeah, they'll have sidewalks throughout the development.
on one side of the road, we can put them on 2, but at least one side.
Correct. Yeah.
Is there any proposed common areas for this 60-something acre?
They'll have an amenity area that's in the initial development that's been approved already, and then like Melanie said, there'll be some other open space areas that they'll preserve as open space and wooded and stuff like that.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to send these annexations to full council for review and approval?
I move that we send these 3 applications to full council for approval, coming in from the county as a R20, RMA, R20/RS to R10 residential in the city. 3 parcels totaling approximately 62.3 acres.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, so the next item is application of Perimeter Road and Fork Shoals Road. We have an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by Ashmore Bridge LLC located at Ashmore Bridge Road, Fort Shoals Road by 100% petition method, and to establish a zoning classification of C2 commercial for said property. And then we also have an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by William C. Woolman and located at Perimeter Road and Fort Shoals Road by 100% petition method, and to establish a zoning classification of C2 commercial for said property.
Madam Chair, if I could just get some clarification from Mr. Fairhall. The ordinance reads that it's Ashmore Bridge LLC. The agenda summary reads that it's Lawrence Road Laurel Creek LLC. I want to make sure that we've got the correct.
They're actually one and the same. I meant to update that agenda report there. Ashmore Bridge LLC is the new name of the entity as it's registered.
Okay.
So this property started out as being under Lawrence Road Laurel Creek LLC, and it's been re-registered as Ashmore Bridge LLC.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll give you a little bit of background on this project here. This is 3 properties, 2 property owners. That's why there's 2 ordinances, 1 for each of the property owners. And the 3 properties total about 31 acres. It's right across the street from Arden Woods at the intersection of Ashmore Bridge Road and Fort Shoals Road. Arden Woods was annexed into the city back in 2019. The applicant is planning for commercial development on this tract, including a space convenience store, gas station, and then the remainder of the property will be marketed for additional commercial development, where we actually are going to be working hard to market for it. Perhaps even a grocery anchor or something of that variety there. But it'll be a great development project out in that area, because that area is really lacking for commercial development, and even gas stations and whatnot. So it'll be perhaps a domino that'll start an effect out there and might lead to some additional commercial development. The city does have some additional commercial tracts located along Fort Shoals Road, including out parcels at the Arden Woods subdivision right there at that intersection. And we also just talked about Sunnywood Cottages, which has a commercial tract along Fort Shoals Road too. Just as before, this one is located in the South Greenwood Fire District. It will be part of the automatic aid agreement that the city passed with that fire district. And it looks like a good opportunity to bring in a commercial development.
Madam Chair, I move that we forward these 2 items to council for consideration and approval.
2 or 3, Pat?
It's 2 ordinances.
Okay.
Just for purpose.
3 property. This gets across Fort Shoals Road, ties into Perimeter Road at Donaldson Center. Is that correct?
That's correct. So we'll be touching Donaldson Center with this one.
And this is Rewa and Metro.
So they've both got lines out there. I think what we would like to do is the applicant is working on it right now, trying to coordinate this tour. So I think what we'd like to do is just kind of get a little more involved with this, as we know there's interest to annex it, and see if we can help them find a route to the Rewa line. That way we'll be able to take that on as a city line. So he's got some sewer information about what's out there, and he's kind of trying to get that tied up and nailed down. So we'll help him out with that, try to make sure he's going in the right direction.
All right, I didn't hear you say.
I didn't yet, but I will. I'll second.
Okay, you made a motion, so second. Okay, and then we have any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of moving this to full council for review and approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Okay, next up is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by the city of Mauldin and located in Plain Street and West Butler Road by 100% decision method to establish a zoning classification of C2 commercial for said property. And page 9.
And so this is a property about 2¼ acres. And like you said, the city of Mauldin owns it, has plans to build fire station. So we're proposing that in the city and trying to see it.
I move we annex our property and zone it.
Annex our property to our city. I'm not second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, we're moving this on to full council for review and approval. All right, so the next on here was follow-up discussion of exterior building color standards. And like I said before, I don't know that we're going to have any developers to come up. I'm specifically concerned about what's in the city center. Although what's right out on the outlying area is a little concerning too, but not residential. And I don't know that any developers are going to come up and want to do something outlandish. I just think that somehow we either need to have something that says your color needs to be approved, even if we don't have specific colors. Maybe it's something that's going to be approved by council or Mr. Dearlaw. I mean, I don't know if that's something that they come here and say, well, these are the colors we want.
We do usually ask for, when we're going through the permit review, for them to give us a rendition of what the building exterior is going to look like. And we ask for that color so that we have full control. The one thing that we do have in our ordinance is it says that we would not allow any intense color schemes, I think is the exact wording. So that's why we ask for that, is to just be able to get that and make sure it passes the eye test, I guess.
But what is intense?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty vague. So I don't know. I mean, that's
it's kind of more treated, I guess, as you'll know when you see it, maybe.
But would you get pushback if it was something that was just a horrendous color and that's what they wanted and they came to you? Would they give you pushback if you said no? Because then they can say, well, there's nothing in your ordinance that says I can't use this color. And it's my mother's favorite color, and I want to use it.
Yeah. Usually at that point, what it would turn into is they want to appeal that decision and have to go to the zoning board of appeals.
Thoughts?
I think that as written, it's sufficient for now. I get very nervous when we start telling people, when we become the color police.
Well,
what a developer can or can't do, as long as it fits within the design guidelines for the Central Redevelopment District in this particular case. I know that there are some municipalities that have architectural review boards, and I have seen how horribly south those can go. And how it stymies development. I just think that as written with Mr. Deerhawk's department, that's sufficient.
Well, it's like I said in the last meeting, I think you got very few, but you got some corporations, companies that is their trademark. of color. So who's gonna really say that that's offensive to me? I mean, I know one bill you talked about. I've heard people say, it's just bright and shiny and it gets your attention, and some others say it's the eyesore fence. So I think beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
I don't think it's an eyesore. I would have preferred less. But there again, I'm more concerned about what the city center. And hopefully the developers that come in, there's not going to be an issue. But that's my concern.
I mean, you can always add, if they give you a color, and usually the architects want to put the color palettes on there. I mean, if it's something that really get a lot of people saying, I don't like this color, don't like that color, then you could always go to the developer and say, is there another color you could pick? Dictate to them, you can't use this color. I'm kind of like Mr. Matt. I think it's kind of infringing on their rights of color. Now we have a facade ordinance. I think says certain materials have to be used. They face the main thoroughfare. You can use them on the front, the side wall, I think, or a side wall or something that's facing. But that's all I know of. We got is a facade ordinance like split block and different things, and just make a decorative block. But, keeps you from putting a cement block building facing one of your main corridors, or putting vinyl siding on it. So we got that, and like I said, we caught some flack over that, but it's been in business for several years. But I just don't know how you would tell somebody they can't use a color that they like, even though you didn't like it, or you thought it might be out of character for wherever you're gonna put it. I mean, it's my fault, but I don't think we've had any problem up to one building, but any comments one way or the other on color of any building that's been developed. Since you've been there, David?
The only one that I've heard comments about is probably one building.
Yes. And like I said, I've heard pros and cons about that one particular building. So I mean, that's just, I think right now until it gets, if you get more than that, just that one, might want to just keep an eye on it and just keep watching it. If it does materialize into something, then look at it at that time. But I think if you work with the developers, they will go along with the colors on the thing will keep them from developing something. I think they would be able to work with it because if there's a market for what they want to build, they're gonna do it.
Well, it's just follow it. So.
Yeah, I understand. I appreciate it. But that's just my thoughts on it.
Okay, well, we can move on to public comments. Public comment.
No one. Oh, there's no one online.
Everybody put on video.
Mark's not there.
Hearing none, committee concerns.
I have no, Madam Chairman.
All right, hearing none, we'll go on.
So moved.
All right,
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Go ahead and call this Finance and Policy Committee to order. The time is 10:30 on December 14th. Committee members present are myself, Michael Reynolds, Ms. King, and Ms. Kuznar. Our first line item here is public comment. I don't see any on the computer screen or in the room, so we'll go ahead and pass that. Second item is reading and approval of minutes. Those are for November 2nd, 2020.
Motion to approve as submitted.
I have a motion to approve as submitted the November 2nd minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? This one first track. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries unanimous. The minutes are approved. Next item is a report from Mr. Madden.
Mr. Chair, the committee, the administration budget is in line with what it should be right now. It turned in the right direction.
Check. Next item is Ms. Abercrombie.
Yeah, all the overall numbers in the proper place that they should be around this time of the year. We will start receiving weekly tax checks now until probably mid-February. So that money's going to start coming in pretty good now. And then that's all I have. And then it's bedtime.
Could you update us on next year's budget stats?
We are the budget memo has been sent to all department heads for guidance, their guidance memo. I will be getting out the spreadsheet for them to use for their budgets in the next couple of by next week, so that they can have everything and be ready to go. And then get rid of on their next year.
Excellent. And we have the calendar already. That was last year. Yep. We're going to request on the minutes that Ms. Miller send all those dates out on our calendar apps, because they don't get put in if they're not done. Okay. Any other questions? Great. Mr. Putnam.
To talk about the vision statement we'll talk about. You'll take a look at page 7, you'll see where was our first round. And then on page 8, you will see what the engagement committee, employee engagement committee came back with. They felt like that we were a little too wordy with the first one. They wanted it a little more precise and direct. And so that's what we came up with there. We really like that. And it gives us, as far as the mission statement, what we should focus on daily. And then with the vision, what the community, or what we should keep our eyes on for the future. And what we'd like to do is, if y'all would take a look at this at your next goal setting session, see if it fits in with what y'all have for the is your vision for the city.
What the committee think of the 2 items submitted, in addition to subtraction, if you like to get more. I did like shortening there. I would like it to be something that we can point to and recite. Questions or comments? Our next goal setting session is when, Mr. Mauldin?
Really, normally in February, so we'll have to send out some proposed council dates in January.
Okay. All right. You got more stuff coming up, Mr. Putnam. Next item is unfinished business. We have none. First item in the new business is going to be medical benefits renewal. It's page 9 to 11 in your packet. Mr. Putnam will speak to that before. As literally the reason you waited this long, this right here.
Yes. Our current health program consists of a MAP system that is a big part of what we do. Then we have SMAP and Anchor. Anchor is our TPA. Then we use Nationwide, which is the city's gap insurance. The gap insurance basically keeps us, if we have a $200,000 claim, the city would pay $60,000 of that, and then Nationwide pays anything above that. Southern Scripts is our current city's pharmacy benefits manager, doing a very good job with that. And then, of course, we all know about Proactive MD. We'd like to just keep exactly what we have now. You can look on page, and y'all have seen this before, on page 11, I believe, the renewal rates that we had. And we're going to come in about $200,000 under what we had projected. We'd like to ask that you, that the council looks at reinvesting about $39,000 of that money to go to offset premiums for employee and spouse, employee and child, and family. And that would be $100 a month or $1,200 a year. And that would total about $39,000.
And the remaining 161 would be, the remaining 161 would be put back into the.
Yes, into the fund, yes, into the insurance.
Okay, questions, comments? Yes, Ms. King.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So say that again, Mr. Putnam, it'll be $100 a month for the employee's carrying spouse and or children combination.
Or family. Yeah.
Family,
Yeah.
okay. Gotcha.
Right now, those our pay period are for employee and spouse is like 243 a pay period, which is roughly twice a month, but some, we do 26 payments. Employee and child is around 197 per month. And then employee and family is 344.97 a pay period, which is stout.
So essentially with employees only not having to pay any out of pocket, this would evenly distribute so that each of those other categories that do have to pay out of pocket would each get the same amount, the same approximately $100 credit.
That's correct.
I would like just to add, we're doing a little bit of estimation on how far that 39,000 will go, but that's what we expect.
Well, and it could change throughout the year if you have another employee that, if that total number changes, right?
And that's one thing we looked at was would it cause us to have more people go back and forth. I don't believe $1,200 a year is going to make someone decide to go from single to employee and spouse. It probably won't, but it will help those that are there. I don't see a massive change one way or the other.
Well, but this would be a one-time thing for this coming year, right? Or is this going to be an ongoing to reinvest?
If the cost saving trends continue into the future years, then it would be something that council could consider every year.
Every year, but this is only for 1 year.
Yes.
Yeah, it's based on the funding that's available.
Yeah, but you know how things go. You can have a bad year next year and everything's kind of out of the window.
Right. And I'm okay with that, but just like with anything we've done in the past, as long as the employees realize that this is what we're doing now, that's not to say in 12 months it's going to remain
that's
the same discount.
Yeah, correct.
Absolutely.
I think that's the only concern I would have with is making sure our baseline is here. Anything above that is something that we're looking at from this year moving forward. We'll adjust accordingly. But the flip side of that is the employees have done a good job of maintaining costs. So I do think it's a good idea to try to show the appreciation from council. Okay. What do I hear on this? We need.
Mr. Chair, well, I guess it's a motion for both aspects from council.
Correct.
Okay, I'll make the motion to forward full council the recommendation to accept the renewal of the health insurance policy, and in addition to that, to forward to council to reinvest some of the savings at approximately $39,000 for the year to cover the monthly out-of-pocket costs for employees with dependent coverage.
Thank you, Ms. King. I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on this item? Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimous to full council with those recommendations. Thank you, Ms. King. Next item was a standing committee rules. This is a change to standing committee rules. This is in the packet, page 12. Mr. Mauldin, would you update us on that? We talked about that at the end of the last meeting.
Yes, at the end of the last committee meeting, with this item, a request was made for staff to go and review the language in the committee rules to see if there's any flexibility that can be provided so that if meetings were not held upstairs or held downstairs in the council chambers, there'll be some flexibility for the committee chairs. So on page 15, red line language that was included to provide some of that flexibility.
Excellent. This came up, as you saw in your package, strictly because of the audio visual improvements in City Hall, trying to utilize those and have as much public input and accessibility as possible. Kind of easy peasy there, but any questions or comments on this item? All right, do I have any motions?
Forward this standing committee rules to full council for consideration. Move the committee meetings to the council chambers for consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Kuznar. The motion reads that you report this to the full council for the recommendation of approval to have the Mauldin City Hall in council chambers, the committee meetings in council chambers. I'm also giving the flexibility to the committee chair to request the meeting to be held at a different location. I put words in your mouth there, but I think that's what you're saying.
Yes, that's it.
Thank you.
I second that.
Thank you. This is an amendment to the standing committee rules. We have a motion in a second. Any more discussion? The only thing I would add, not to change this policy, never mind. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Next item is public comment. We have any? Hearing none, committee concern. Any from you guys? All right, thank you. Almost, hold on one second. Mr. Madden, this is at the request of Mr. Madden. If we look at this change to rules, one item Mr. Madden brought forward that as we're dealing with COVID situation still is looking at ability for council members to be able to Zoom into meetings or participate in meetings remotely. So because that was obviously covered in our emergency ordinance, let's look at other ways that in the event that, for instance, I get COVID, then I would still be able to participate and potentially run. So if you can have legal counsel look at that and bring that forward just for discussion from that committee meeting. Any other committee concerns? Okay. What do I hear on adjournment?
Adjournment.
Thank you. I have a motion. Second. Vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned at how many minutes?
It is
1 o'clock.
10:44.
10:44. Thank you, guys.
I'd like to call the December the 14th committee meeting to order. It's approximately 10:45 p.m. on Monday evening. All committee members are present. Mr. Michael Reynolds, Mr. Taft Matney, and by Zoom is the Recreation Director, Mr. Bart Kumalander, and the City Administrator, Mr. Brandon Madden. So, public comments, I see no public here. So, moving right along to the item number 3, reading and approval of the minutes of the Recreation Committee meeting November the 2nd.
Move for approval.
Got a motion, Mr. Matney, we approve as distributed. Second. Any discussion? As I stated previously, according to legal counsel, even though I was in by remote means, I can still vote on because I was in attendance but couldn't vote remotely. So I'll go along with it. So we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So minutes are approved as distributed. All right, the next one is the report from Communication City Officer, Mr. Kumalander. You up?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me all right, Mr. Black?
Yes, sir.
Just want to let you know about Pine Brook Forest. That basketball, that was our CIP. That is complete. Also, the I-beam project is complete at the Sports Center.
Very good.
And our basketball is in full swing. We've got about 37 teams. That's close to 400 kids this year, which is up a little bit from last year. Senior Center, we're still kind of taking baby steps with that, making sure we're having some activities. We got bingo and exercise, and we're letting them use the machines as well up there. And that's all I have. I did hear Mr. Reynolds talk about the fields at the maintenance on the fields. I just want to let him know that me and Matthew, the Public Works Director, talked today about that. And I feel very confident that he is, me and him will work together and get them right for the spring. I also just want to tell the Public Works Department and Matthew, you know, I have to call him sometimes during the weekend and we got stuff broke. I just want to tell him thank you and his department. Anytime I call Matthew, he's right on the spot trying to help us out, whatever he can do. I just want to tell him thank you and let y'all know as well. We're working together and on the parks and the fields and getting ready for the spring. So just let y'all know. And if you got any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Bart. Mr. Mann, you got anything?
No, Mr. Chair.
All righty, appreciate it, Bart. Moving right along, unfinished business. There's no unfinished business. New business is the repaving of the city parking lot. It should be on page 4 of your packet information here. And I think we had RFPs were sent out. We had 2 proposals from 2 firms. And Bart, you want to take this?
Yes, sir. And I'll lean on Brandon a little bit as well. Just to tell you a little back history of the parking lot. I've been with the city quite a while. I don't believe it's ever been repaved. So what the price includes is ripping up the old asphalt and taking up some of the busted curbing. We did some of it when we had the replacement of the playground, and it looks really well. And so we felt like that, we need to go ahead and pave that. And so that's kind of why it's up in front of y'all. Mr. Black, you can kind of elaborate. You've been here about as long as I have. I don't ever remember it being repaved or we probably sealed it, but we never repaved it. So if council's got any questions, I'll try to answer best I can.
Thank you, Bart. I don't remember repaving. This was constructed in late 70s, early 80s. Got one of the construction data that was.
It's been patched up. They've dug lines through there and we've patched it up. And, the lines that are on there now, it's really not visible for somebody to park there. So that will be redone as well. So I think it will enhance that parking lot tremendously if we can get this project complete.
This repaving would not include removal of those trees in front of the senior center next to the produce stand where the roots are growing under the asphalt, which I think is causing the main problem on this room. We're repaving it, other than it's been there so long it needs to be repaved. So this does not include removing of those trees. Is that correct?
No, sir, it does not. I think Matthew, I've talked to him and he is and going to remove those trees. I don't know if he's going to try to do that in-house. I can talk to Matthew about that tomorrow if he's going to sub that out. But it's not, no, sir, that's not included in the price.
Those trees would be removed because of the tree huggers and tree ordinance and all this. We got plans to replace said trees with something else at some point somewhere in there.
That's correct. We have the vegetation management plan council approved, so there'll be replanting of trees that the roots won't be as invasive as these are, but the trees will be taken down, stumps grounded.
And the curbing will be replaced as needed or where needed? As
needed, and that was an effort to try to save on the cost. Not all of the curbing is in bad shape. There are some areas where it has to be replaced though.
I noticed on the 2 bids on here between the 2 vendors on there, one of them is showing the difference I've seen on there, of course, is about $60,000 difference. But can you explain on these depths of the thing, Brandon? One of them's got like a 2-inch, the other's got a 4-inch, one of them got a 4, one of them got an 8. But
the not Patagakis, but the other contract, the other vendor, they were just going to come in and just take it all the way down
and then repay, where Patagakis will take more of a kind of an approach where they're not going to mill down all the way unless they need to, because we don't know what's the subgrade is under there. It may not be in bad shape. And so that's the reason for the difference. The other group isn't doing any, their thought process is not to do any type of looking and waiting and seeing. They're just going to come and take it all the way down and repay it.
Rip it all up, start over.
Rip it all up.
Crush and run off.
And start all over.
But my thing, I was talking to Mr. Manning, their breakouts while ago. That parking lot's been in there ever since that place was built. So it ought to be compacted pretty well what's under that asphalt. So my thing is, if you go disturbing it too far, we're going to create more problems than what we've got now. I know it would be packed if we put a new crush and run under the asphalt. But we know it's in there now, been packed now for years and years and years, so it's pretty strong. So
yeah, it's been there. It's been there for at least 30 plus years.
And I personally, man, I don't see the need on the additional, like $60,000 or something like that to do that. Unless it is necessary, I don't know. What's the committee's thoughts on that?
I mean, having played those fields when I was young, I know what that parking lot looked like, and I just watched it age. I would agree with you, Mr. Black, that it should be pretty compact by now. We've got to make sure that lot is taken care of. It currently provides unsafe conditions for families who are walking through the park. It provides unsafe conditions for our seniors who are going to the senior center. Not as many as we had previously, but once the world gets back to normal, it would be great for them to not have to worry about tripping and falling in the parking lot because of root system being invasive and bringing it up. I frankly would be more in line to agree with staff's recommendation on awarding the bid to Panagakis Asphalt.
Mr. Reynolds, you got any thought?
Mr. Madden, did Mr. Fleeman have a chance to look at these two bids by chance?
Yes, actually, Mr. Fleeman was on the evaluation committee, so there are 3 staff members on the committee. They reviewed and ranked the projects based on the criteria that was in the bid, and Patagakis was the highest one.
If I looked at it right, which I'm saying I did, it included the front part of the senior center, the side parking at the gym, and over there at the picnic show. Right?
The
entire parking lot is up there now. That includes replacing whatever curbing needs to be replaced after everything's done, and go back and restriping and marking the handicap and everything needs to be marked, and putting back in the concrete bumpers or whatever they call them.
Yes, sir. Mark, is everything? I'm saying yes, but I just want to make sure that what you remember from looking at bids.
Yes, you don't have that many bumpers in there. The ones that they do have, we can take those up, and I know what Mr. Black's talking about. And then when they get through paving, we can put those back down. We only have a few, I believe.
They're still in good shape. I don't think it's any busted, are they?
No, sir.
Yeah. I read in there where they've got a 12-inch piece of rebar, but they're anchoring them down.
In the event, so looking at what I remember seeing, in the event that Panagakis does have to go mill it all the way down through the full 8 inches like the other RFP was suggest, the other proposal was suggesting, which of these two would be the cheaper? I think my math was not Panagakis, but I don't know.
I think if you went down and took the whole thing, I think Roger's coming in about $5,000 or $6,000 cheaper.
Okay. So that's probably negotiable in the event that we get into that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't think that the base that they will have to do that, but they may have to.
The main thing is getting it back in correct order where we can get the tree roots out and get everything back, get it compacted and leveled off for safety versus parking also.
What's the estimated start date?
We haven't got there. There's another piece to this that we want to wait until council made this decision, is the paving of the walking trail.
Okay.
Recreation has part funds that are available. Kind of want to wait until we have this vendor in place to see how we can make sure it's all done at one time.
And Panagackers, I think I'm correct, Brandon, they did Springfield Park. They did several other projects for the city, so we know the work, or recreation knows the work. So they have been a reliable vendor to deal with. Any other questions, Matt? So what's the pleasure of the committee on this item about the paving of the parking lot at the city park?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion with the recommendation to approval to award this bid to Panagackis not to exceed $166,217.
You got a motion to Mr. Reynolds that we award the paving at the city park to Panagackis in the amount of not to exceed $166,217 for this paving project. Do I have a second? Second. Mr. Taft Manny, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. All right, thank you. That's all we had in new business. Moving down to public comment. Having the public comment. Mr. Black. Yeah, Mr. Mayor. Just to be sure I read my packet correctly on Panagackis' quote toward the end. The $166,217 is just for remove and replace the parking lot. The wheel stops, 7 of them, another $525. If any curbing has to be repaired, replaced, damaged, or whatever kind of thing, there's different footage in there, but there's a minimum curb repair of $9,600. So your $166,217 not to exceed won't even cover the wheel stops. The way I read it, not saying it's right, I just read the documentation. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Black. Thank you, Mayor. I said install 6 wheel stops, according to Mr. Toomlander, we didn't think it had to be any replacement. That's not big, not $500 something there. And the curbing, you know how much curbing was in there? It wasn't.
No, it's not a lot. One thing we will probably do, council awards and bids, when we negotiate the actual contract with them. We can actually go out there and try to measure. It doesn't seem like, I don't think we're going to, from Matt's review of the curves, it didn't look like they would have to really do. There are some bad spots, but most of the curves are good. Now, there are some bad spots, and I'm not sure if they hit that 9,600. That's something that we'll have to talk to Panagackis about.
I would let you and Mr. Toomlander discuss this with Panagackis, because like I said, they've done the work forward. I don't think that would keep from them throwing in curbing and doing whatever they're doing curbing. It's not to exceed price with the break the bank on their part.
Mr. Chairman, could we ask staff to figure out what those costs might be so that we get the new not to exceed number that we will need to amend this in council next week?
I have no problem with it. Manuel will take care of that and get with Matthew and Bart and have all that for the council meeting on Monday night.
Yes.
And to get back with Panagackis, it might be that they include that in there with what work they've done for us. Thank you, Ms. Matt. Any more public comment? Anything else, Mayor? Yes. All right. Committee concern. Do you have a committee concern?
I'm concerned it's late.
It is. It's almost tomorrow.
Hold on 1 second, Mr. Chairman. Mark, thank you for getting back to me. I will get dates to you tomorrow. Thank you.
Yes, sir. No problem.
Finish your decoration.
It's done.
Thank you, Bart.
Yes, sir.
No committee concern on here in German. Got some motion made, Mr. Manning, got a second. Second, Mr. Reynolds, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Good night,